Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit like, follow, or subscribe on the platform that you're listening to us on. You can also check out my work at the loudest.com on the planet, knac.com, for exclusive hard rock and heavy metal interviews, live show coverage, album reviews, and more. My guest for episode 173 is solo artist, producer, writer, and actor WES CAGE. CAGE got his start in the music business with a melodic black metal band named Eyes of Noctum. He's currently pursuing a solo career where his music takes a little bit of a turn from the past. His latest single is called The Wolf, and here's WES CAGE to tell you more about it. If I knew absolutely nothing about WES CAGE, how would you describe your music to me?
I would describe WES CAGE as an active rock project with a lot of spiritual and world music elements.
I think that's a fair assessment after listening to your latest single, The Wolf, which came out on October 27th through Pavement Entertainment. What inspired the lyrics of this particular song? You say it's a song of triumph and hope, and it explores the spiritual dichotomy of the higher and lower self, if you just want to expand upon that.
Definitely. Well, it's most definitely about the higher and lower self. I think we got there by talking a little bit about, and by there with who I mean with Keith Wallen. Him and I were talking about wolf symbolism for a second, and I was talking about how the wolf represents loyalty. And kind of this beautiful song about being loyal to our true self, and our souls kind of unfolded, and then it branched into an even more complex and profound subject of the higher and lower self. So I feel like The Wolf is really about knowing that you have a godly force within, and to also know that there's a force that could really tell us that it's not worth putting one foot in front of the other and just giving up, and that's a very dangerous entity, and that being loyal to ourselves is very important too, so we can be loyal to others.
You mentioned you co-wrote this with Keith Wallen of Breaking Benjamin. How did you and Keith first get introduced to each other?
My manager BLASKO had arranged a multitude of writing sessions, and Keith was one of the individuals that I had composed with, and it was great. It was like intense experience. I've never had a kind of a campaign set up for me where I'm going to meet multiple individuals that I'm very aware of and that I know the career of as well. And we're making all these songs that I want to release all in one. I wanted to release every single song that we did, but the one that we went with first was The Wolf, and save the other ones for next time.
You got a pretty theatrical video to go along with the Wolf single. It was filmed at the Le Grand restaurant in LA, kind of exploring that dark and light character that lives inside of us. Whose idea was it to put the concept of the video the way that it appeared?
Well, Le Grand is they're kind of like family friends of ours. My mother knows them, and we've eaten there quite a few times. And it's actually an incredible restaurant because you're getting such a decadent, upscale type of food for reasonable amounts of money. So it's fun to go there. And they also have the owners are from the Republic of Georgia, so they have some stuff there from the Caucasus that's delicious, like khachapuri and all these awesome dishes. And we're like, all right, this place is cool. What if we did the music video here, because it's so like it had a kind of a dark, modern feel to it and there's like gold, and there's a lot of cool, what do you call that? Like contrasting colors there. And we decided to do it there, especially too because the character that I play, his lower self is wandering the streets of downtown, and downtown's interesting because it's like, that's the headquarters of the police and a lot of government buildings, but you take one wrong corner and keep walking, and it's like a different planet with destitution down here. So it was the perfect setting for that as well.
So with your lower self character, I believe you have this golden spiked kind of skeleton design mask. Is that something that you had made, or is that something that you came across in your travels?
We came across it in our travels. There's a woman named Miriam Harat Union. She's an awesome designer. And when we saw the gold mask there, we are like, okay, let's have that for the ominous higher self character that represents like the sturdiness and organization, and then have the lower self kind of vagrant character looking at that kind of like intimidated but also intrigued in the same way. But it was just perfect how it had the skull kind of effect to it, and then also at the same time it had the spikes. It was probably the toughest COVID mask on earth.
Absolutely. Was it just you and Keith as musicians on this particular single, or did you have a backing band?
It was just us, but BLASKO, he's also such a legendary musician. He puts his spin on things as well. Like I did a track about 8 years ago. It's still in the vault of everything that I want to release in the future. And BLASKO completely recreated that track and turned it into something 10 times cooler with a different meter as well. It swings instead of being just on the one all the time. So it's awesome.
Well, you've mentioned that you got a bunch of songs that you're sitting on. So how many songs are you sitting on that we can expect as the years go by?
Well, technically that's like maybe 50 to 60 songs I have, and I keep writing them. I used to be a little slower with my process, but I learned some techniques. I really think that the book The Artist's Way is wonderful. It kind of shows people to go into more of a flow state, but that and some advice I've gotten from notable musicians, I write songs very quickly now, and I feel like that helps me to make songs that are more whole and that sound like they're meant to be. They're all made of parts that are meant to be together. But I remember one time I put 80 tracks in front of a producer and said, "You pick the ones you think we should do for an album," and he was like, "Oh my God!" And he did manage to get through it and pick 10. But yeah, so we have quite a bit.
Are you planning on releasing songs in intervals as singles, or are you going to eventually put together a full studio album?
I definitely want to do a full studio album again. And I have the 12 songs in my mind that I want to that I know are ready to be released. Cause a lot of these, this other 50 songs or something like that, they'll never see the light of day. Cause some of them are not as, they're not just as proper as the other ones are in my mind to be released. But yeah, there's like 12 that are really awesome. And I would want to, of course, reduce that down to like 8 of the best, and then see if I could write from the same source as those 8 perfect tracks. I usually always do that. That's the thing with when I do albums is I noticed that towards the end of my recording an album, I come home and I'm so excited about having played all these instruments that I wind up just doodling and making another track, and that winds up being the coolest thing I've ever heard, and I have to shove it into the end of the album.
Do you have a timetable for your next single to be released?
I'm hoping it would be no more than like 6 months, because I don't want to. Last time there was some delays on my end with finding the right time to make the video and also to getting paid and stuff from my acting, and it was a lot.
Your last studio album was Prehistoric Technology. It came out in 2015. It was your first solo album. It's currently available on streaming platforms. It was described as candy for smart people. What did you kind of mean by that?
I meant that it's definitely it's kind of like the type of book at a library where the librarian or someone that sees you holding that, be like, "Oh, you're one of those guys," or "You're one of those people that that's into the more advanced esoteric and maybe even the forbidden." It's a very musically, it's candy for everybody. Lyrically, it is definitely I start going into stuff that's not even advised for people under 40 to start studying about. Like some of the mysticism where I'm bringing up Keter and Malkuth and on all these different realms and Sephiroth and stuff. But it's cool because, one day someone will look at that album that's maybe studying the things I'm into, and they'll see other things in it that are helpful for them.
Let's talk a little bit about that mysticism. And I noticed that you said on an Instagram post that the shamanic way and mysticism resurrected and healed you. I know that you've overcome alcohol addiction as part of that. So if you want to get a little bit into how the shamanic way and mysticism healed and resurrected you.
Certainly. Well, I feel like, we could either go through this life awake or asleep. And in both versions of that, we're conscious, but it's just how conscious we want to be. And I feel that mysticism and the shamanic path can really help locate things for people and explain them in ways that that person realizes with more than just their mind. It's something that would be a complete realization. And for me, self-realization, self-actualization, that kind of stuff is the only thing that worked for me. And I had to really feel the reason why I was abusing drugs and alcohol in order for me to understand what I needed to be healed from. I didn't know how complicated and how mercurial and complex that issue was. And I had to literally, as a spiritual practitioner of the many arts I practice, to eliminate that in ways that some people would say wouldn't cause any benefit. There's a lot of people that think it's just going to be medication and Alcoholics Anonymous or any 12-step program that it's going to help people, where it might be deeper than that. And so that really helped. It also, it brought me to the path that I'm meant for, and I was able to meet the person that the universe wants me to be with for the rest of my life and created me for. And she's the miracle of my life. Her name is Ermelinda, an amazing artist that also comes from an artistic family of greatness. And now I understand, why I had to go through everything I went through in order to reach that place. But I think everybody has a shaman within. I can for sure guarantee that every human being on earth has a relative, a few thousand people down the line that was a shaman or a witch warlock type individual that had some kind of metaphysical ability. So that is in us, and if we tap into that, we can do some pretty remarkable things.
Is Ermelina the one that kind of introduced you to this spirituality practice?
Well, she introduces me to many things within it that I needed to be aware of. But I for some reason was one of those different kids that was born just right when I came into the world. This first stuff I was saying was spiritual. My first word was light, because I was getting into talking about very advanced concepts, and I noticed that adults I'd rather be friends with them than some people my age, because they were interested in the spiritual. But when I was 15, my father was studying philosophy, and when he started getting into the spiritual realm of that, it was kind of like I was returned to something I've always known within, and I started studying mysticism after that for about 18 years almost.
How did you and your fiancé first meet?
We both met on a project that we were doing. We were filming a movie called Mojave Diamonds. This was in Nevada. We were making the movie with Rampage Jackson, also had Chael Sonnen and Cowboy Cerrone. And we immediately had this profound connection. I immediately recognized her soul. There's just certain things that I had never seen in others and that I saw in her. And then I noticed that I was always looking to see if she was watching my scene, or I just always enjoyed spending time with her, being around her. And then I noticed how like immensely protective I was over her and still am. And then I finally got the courage to, I kind of like subconsciously knew that I needed to clean my life up for a second before asking her to dinner. And then after cleaning my life up and getting some things finalized, I asked her to dinner.
You've mentioned a couple times your movie career. In addition to being a musician, you've been in several movies. You mentioned Mojave Diamonds, and there was Assault on VA-13 and Buckle Up. Is movie something you're still going to pursue while you're pursuing this music career?
Definitely. Yeah, it's for me, it's two lungs of the same organism. I'll always be doing both film and music, just like I think it's interesting because it comes from the same place for me, you know, like with dialogue, especially. Like my father has mentioned in some interviews how there's a musicality and delivery. And like for me, there's literally a theme song in my mind for every character or every film I do. So I'll be keeping it up. And I just finished 2 scripts of my own this year, and I'm gonna be for sure doing one of those 2024.
And we should probably mention for people that don't know that your father is Nicolas Cage, kind of a big guy, kind of a big actor. You look just like him, so if they don't know that from looking at you, I'd be surprised. What does your dad think of your music?
He loves it, and he's always loved even the heavier stuff too. I did when I was doing more of the extreme metal. I think he likes the depth and especially of the style I do, where I add those like new age kind of spiritual elements to it. He likes that a lot.
You've actually had the opportunity to star in a couple of his movies as well, right?
I played a version of him once. That was like a younger version of the same character, and then I also most notably did a scene with him in Lord of War, and then in 211, which is like a heist, not a heist, but like heist bank robbery movie. I played one of the deranged gunmen in that was going against him.
So when I run your name through Google, it always says, you know, Nick Cage's son, WES CAGE, has a new music band or something like that. Usually the bigger publications. Is this something that is problematic, or have you just come to accept that just you guys are always going to be tied like that? I mean, you are family.
Well, I'm beyond honored to be tied to him and tied with him as father and son. And a lot of what I do is, a lot of my abilities are things that he literally invested in. Both my mom and dad literally put like lifetimes of energy into making sure that I could have my artistic ability and talents evoked, or at least encouraged out by amazing teachers. And, you know, I have been to acting academies since I was little and stuff. But yeah, I think it's something that, you know, people I think do know no matter what, that I'm his son. So it's like they, you know, even if they call me just Weston Cage, it's already implied that, you know, just like how most people know that Angelina Jolie is John Voight's daughter. It's like a similar, but yeah, I mean, it has a medieval sound to it. Weston Cage, son of Nick Cage.
Do you plan to take your solo music out on the road, do some live shows locally, or maybe on little tour festival appearances?
Definitely. I want to do probably like a couple festivals. I mostly like doing festivals just because I feel like you have, you know, the most, we have more people and everything, but, and then also to do tours and stuff. That'd be fun to start with the smaller tour of like maybe the West Coast, and then do a national tour and international too.
So besides the music and besides the acting and the writing of movies, screenplays and whatnot, is there anything else you're working on? I thought I might have saw you working on a book.
Yes. So I'm working on a book that basically ties together all the spiritual realizations I've had. And of course I will, you know, always credit the creator and the universe as the sender of all these realizations I've had. And I've been working on it for like 5 years. I've just been slowly adding and adding to it, and then kind of narrowing it down and making sure that I still believe what I'm saying after a long amount of time, and that it's not something that's just cool to me in the moment. But I'm working on that. I'm also I do a lot of all the men in my family are all chefs, so I'm always working on my culinary abilities. And then it's been a long hiatus for me, but the big three for me was acting, martial arts, and music. And I've kind of neglected my martial arts for a long time because I've been studying more of the self-defense and military, or like practical, more scientific stuff. But now I'm going to be going back to my martial arts, just because I don't want to lose that kind of flexibility and stuff that I've built for literally 30 years now, since I was 3 years old.
What got you into martial arts? Was there somebody that was a studier of that particular martial art?
Well, my dad has always been into martial arts. There's a couple relatives that were into it, but my parents always made sure that I had martial arts multiple times a week. It was started off with Taekwondo to get that kind of discipline and flexibility. And then as I got a little older, I got into boxing and wrestling and really effective fighting forms. And then it was actually a big thing for me to say no to, because I competed to a level to where people suggested I look into the Olympics for wrestling. And that was a real conversation that my mom and dad and everyone felt comfortable with, knowing that they weren't lying to me and being like, you could really go to the Olympics, because I was some seasons undefeated in wrestling and winning in less than 20 seconds. And I was going to Iowa and training with Olympians, and it was just something very serious for me. And then I was going to do MMA. I had to kind of put that away, because at least to be the kind of MMA fighter that I would want to be, I would have to probably neglect my art, and I couldn't do that.
Yeah, getting pummeled in the face a lot. It doesn't sound like a great life either.
No, it doesn't. It's not. I can't affect the amount of people I want to affect doing that.
So what do you do as far as your culinary work? Is that something you just do for family and friends, or does it go beyond that?
I definitely do it for family and friends, but I'm trying to look into see if I can maybe do something down the line with it, to where I'm sharing it with the world. My best abilities are definitely with the Italian family. I'm very good at Italian, but I also make a lot of awesome Middle Eastern and Maghrebi dishes, as well as like Indian and Thai. So I'm into that as well. But my fiance is from Albania and grew up in Greece. So when her and I cook together, it's very Mediterranean. And that's something that I love.
Sounds great, Wes. Those are all the questions I have for you today. You sound like you got a lot going on, and I want to thank you for coming on the podcast to tell me more about your latest song, The Wolf, and everything else that you have going on. It's great, and I look forward to anything else you got coming down the pipeline.
So much. It was a pleasure.
Once again, I want to thank WES CAGE for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out his latest single, The Wolf, out now through Pavement Entertainment. Head over to your favorite music streaming app to check that one out. While you're there, it's worth checking out his 2015 solo album, Prehistoric Technology. For all things WES CAGE, you can follow him on Instagram at Weston Cage Coppola. I also want to thank Barbara Papa George and Pavement Entertainment for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. Discover your next favorite artist on the Rock is George podcast.